How to make a mixtape.
Now, the making of a good compilation tape is a very subtle art, many do's and don'ts. First of all, you're using someone else's poetry to express how you feel. This is a delicate thing. You gotta kick it off with a killer, grab attention. Then you gotta take it up a notch. But you don't want to blow your wad, so then you gotta cool it off a notch. And there are a lot of rules.
Hello, and welcome to How to Make a Mixtape. I'm Roderick, and once again, I'm here with my friend Donnie. How you doing?
Episode 3, dude. Episode 3, we're chugging along.
We made it. We made it this far.
We made it.
Yeah, which, you know, I want to take a minute to thank people because we're only really 2 episodes in at this point, and it's been a good response so far. Like,
it's crazy the people that want to add their 2 cents and like the contribution conversations that I'm having are awesome. I had, I'll shout him out, Ryan Runge declaring himself a Mixie, which is my favorite thing. A Mixie.
We have a fan title now.
Yeah, was the funniest thing I've ever heard. So stoked on that we have a fan title for sure. But yeah, the feedback's been great.
It's been a great response. We just want to thank everybody who's been listening so far. And more importantly, if you've been passing the pod along to other people, word of mouth is awesome. And I just want to take this opportunity to follow us on your favorite podcasting platform and give us 5 stars or leave a review if you can. You know,
follow the Instagram.
The
Instagram, How to Make a Mixtape Podcast.
How to Make a Mixtape Podcast.
Yep.
On Instagram. So thanks for everybody who's listened so far. Please do follow us and leave a review if you can. And more importantly, honestly, continue to pass it on to people because that seems to be the thing that's growing us so far. Also, our first sort of advertisement already, 3rd episode. So we record this podcast through riverside.fm, which is not just a podcast recording platform, but it's also for webinars, any kind of video conferencing that you want to both record, raw audio, raw video, and have a transcript for. So if you work in a big corporate office and you need an official transcript of your call with video and with audio, Riverside is a place to do that. And, we get a little kickback if people join Riverside through our link. So I'll put the affiliate link in the description of the podcast. And if anybody out there is in need for something like this, so far it's been great for us.
I'll put it in the Instagram.
Yeah, it's made my editing of the pod really easy. And, we're starting to do video clips on Instagram, and that's been fun. It's made that really easy, to be honest. So it's cool. Check that out. If you have a need for it, check it out in our description. It would help us out a lot. We would appreciate it.
And then I'll practice our other advertisement. So since I've been sleeping on a sofa mattress, I've never slept better in my whole life. And I just want to share, it's the best mattress you can get your hands on. And I think that if you go to satva.com, it's with 2 A's. Make sure you Google it. Satva mattresses is the way to go. It's the best night's sleep you'll ever have. So I think I'm ready for when it happens.
Nothing like doing unpaid ads, but honestly, Satva, where you at? I could use a new mattress as well. That's the pin. Actually, you know what? I think we have tiers now. Tier number 1, Satva mattress sponsorship. Tier number 2,
dude, that's the highest tier already.
Well, guests with some. Okay, we do have our first guest with credentials today, and I'll get to that in a second. So we've got guests with credentials, then Satva mattress. I actually think the 3rd tier is I want to meet somebody randomly on the street who knows about my sister and I's Andre watching experience, because that's
a high bar, man.
Well, I'll tell you, I spoke with my sister on the phone today, and right before this, actually, the Deer Clan is not a talkative bunch. We don't talk much on the phone. And not only did she love it, but she confirmed that experience. She confirmed that multiple times in the Astro van, she forced me to watch Andre on family car trips. And I think that's the height.
Yeah.
That's the height of this. If somebody stops me on the street and is like, "Oh, you're How to Make a Mixtape pod," I love Andre. Actually, even better, you know what it is? If streams, wherever Andre is streaming, if streams go up eventually because of this pod, then we've hit the big time.
You're shooting so far and so high, so fast. So if you think about the layers of this, they have to know what you look like, where your face has been on the Instagram once.
I'm taking that back though. I'm taking that back. It's not me actually now. It's if we ever got, dude, this is pipe dream shit.
Okay.
But if we ever got big enough to where there was a spike in Andre streams or downloads,
that was it.
Because because of the pod. I mean, shit, dude, that's because people forgot about that movie and now they remember.
Okay, let's take this one step further, dude. If we get Deb from Napoleon Dynamite / Andre with credentials as a guest and it comes full circle, episode 100, we're getting Deb as the guest. I'll start reaching out now.
So we've got like 4 tiers of success now laid out.
Yeah,
like we've got a
sure.
plan for success laid out.
Yeah. I'm going to create a vision board. And it's just going to be a big seal in the middle of it. Just one big photo of a seal. Yeah, on a mattress, on a Sattva mattress.
On a Sattva mattress.
Right.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm all about that.
That's the goal. So 2 things. It's Pi Day. And for Pi Day, do you have any song affiliation with Pi Day? Because I've got a big one. Do you have any music Pi Day affiliation?
Music Pi Day affiliation. The first thing that pops in my mind is American Pie. It's a classic, right?
Great job.
By Miss American Pie, right? Like, I mean, that hits. What a song, too.
12-minute long song.
No, Don McLean song, right?
Yeah.
A long ass, but classic.
Yeah, great call.
What about
okay,
you?
so
You have a
here's my
affiliation?
Pi Day reference, okay? There is a Chicago band called Tub Ring. Do you ever listen to Mr. Bungle?
Mm-hmm. I know of Mr. Bungle, yes.
Okay, so Tub Ring it falls in the genre of Mr. Bungle, science, weird music-esque stuff that we used to play, like the bands that I was in used to play with back in the day. Tub Ring has been at it for forever. They have an album called The Drake Equation, and I believe the song, I can't remember the name of the song specifically, but at one point in time in the song, because again, it's weird sci-fi rock, the singer goes, 3.1415926. And that is all I remember of the pi part of whatever song it is. And so if I hear that I immediately recite that part.
Bungle.
Dude, they're fucking awesome. If you get a chance, go listen to Tub Ring.
I will listen to. I've never seen Mr. Bungle live either, but I've heard great things. I mean, Faith, it's Michael Patton from Faith No More, right? Mr. Bungle. So
yeah, and Phantomas and all of the weird, crazy shit that Mike Patton has done. Yeah, I mean, that dude is a maniac. That'll be a good, cool topic of influential singers for sure.
So one more shout out. What's the band you're talking about?
Tub Ring.
Tub Ring?
Yeah, last album came out in 2017. But it's either on, I think it's on the early one. It's called Drake Equation. Came out in 2001.
Hey, shout out Tub Ring. I haven't heard you, but Donnie's a fan, and I'm gonna go listen.
They're great.
To
the keyboard player used to regularly smash his keyboards during his shows, and then the bass player was sponsored by Warwick, which was as cool as it got. Like that was the creme de la creme of
keyboard
bass.
Sounds expensive. That's an expensive instrument to smash.
Dude, he had crazy sponsorships and would just smash keyboards, and they'd be all bloody. They were an awesome live band.
Dude, we're already getting off topic here, but when I was coming up in pop punk bands, there was a Indianapolis like grimy kind of like gutter punk / pop punk band, and I don't for the life of me remember the name of it. So if anybody out there remembers, please hit me up. But they were sponsored by Yoo-Hoo.
Oh hell yeah! What a great sponsorship
banner that they would put, but they were like a Casualty style like crust punk. So it was like fuck authority punk, but with the big Yoo-Hoo banner behind them. That's fantastic.
Yep.
I want to call one thing out before we introduce the guest though. So we got some responses to our question last episode about what about a girl songs
people are talking to us.
Missed. So I've got the official responses here. So I'm going to just go through them real quick. Give me your immediate response. Mary Jane's Last Dance, Tom Petty.
It's great. It's got its spot on the list for sure.
Great song. I love Tom Petty, by the way. I'm sure he's going to come up a lot on this pod. Arabella by Arctic Monkeys. Do you know that song?
Dude, in my opinion, one of the more overrated recent bands.
Oh, I love Arctic Monkeys.
You do. You would love Arctic Monkeys.
I do.
Yeah.
Come On Eileen came up.
Okay, so I'm saving Come On Eileen for a later episode. But it was on my list, but it's also kind of a creepy song. Like there's so many.
You considered it though.
It was on my big list for sure.
2 people said Layla by Eric Clapton.
I feel like it's a little too on the nose. And like you would have to specify Derek and the Dominoes versus Eric Clapton unplugged Layla.
So we also had, this almost doesn't count because Ashley, our guest, responded to the poll with her ones that we missed, but she was on the pod. But she said Lacey by Olivia Rodrigo, which was her she already called Audible. That out. That was her, that was her honorable mention. But she also called out Good Golly Miss Molly from Little Richard.
So I just recently, the other day, was listening to the Shirelles radio. And there was a lot of Little Richard on the Shirelles radio. And I'm not going to lie, it was a skip. It was hey, Amazon lady, next song. I can't say her actual name because all of the devices in my house will turn on. But I said, hey, Amazon woman, next track.
I'm a Little Richard fan. And Good Golly Miss Molly.
It's fine.
Song, dude.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, every 90s movie where a kid has to be a great baseball player, Little Richard, Good Golly Miss Molly is in it for sure. You know, there's some kind of montage of they're going to be late for the game and that's the song, you know? So it's definitely, you know, it's nostalgic, it's so we'll say. Yeah, it's so totally true.
And then lastly, and this is, I think, based on the Allison discussion where I brought up the Pixies Allison, which, by the way, I went back and listened to. Banger of a song. Like, people maybe it's on Doolittle. I think it's a great song. But anyway, somebody else said, oh, there's another Allison you guys didn't talk about, which is Allison from Slow Dive.
No relationship.
No. So Slow Dive, UK, like early shoegaze, like right after like My Bloody Valentine and stuff, really like heavy, but like ethereal shoegaze stuff. And like, if I played you that song Allison by them, it's a great song, but you would have no idea what the hell it was about because you can't hear the lyrics. You don't know it's about a girl. Other than the title being Allison, you would have no idea. But I am a shoegaze fan. It's a fantastic song. And Erica was the listener who submitted that. And Erica, you're not wrong. Allison is a great song if you're into shoegaze, if you're into that era of shoegaze, but little inaccessible, I think. All right, well, shall we bring in the guest?
Bring them in. Let's do the. I guess we'll go gender fluid. Bring them in.
How to make a mixtape.
All right, so here we go. I would like to welcome our guest. Really good, one of my goodest friends of all time, and an amazing musician, Zac Canale. Welcome to the pod.
Hey, Zach. Stoked to have you here, buddy.
Hey, dudes. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
I wanna let the audience know who they're listening to. So, Zac and I went to college together, but more importantly, we played in some bands together. So we were in a band called Morrow. You played drums. Briefly, we're in a band called Yells Fire that I was in, but more importantly, you are currently in a band, an amazing band called Jacky Boy.
Listen to him today. Rod's holding up vinyl.
Yeah,
there it is.
What'd you think, Donnie?
It's awesome. It was great listening to it. I had a long drive to work today, so to like throw that stuff on, it was fantastic. I really love it, dude. It was really, really good, fun music.
Great band, dude.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Everybody needs to go listen to Jacky Boy, please. And then additionally to Jacky Boy, you're also a live guitarist for Mike Adams at His Honest Weight.
How do you contend it will all work out? Half a dozen kids and we've all got down. I'll do you one better. I'll do you one better.
Yes, correct.
Another visual aid here for you podcast listeners there. And then I recently saw you on tour with Steve Marino.
Yes.
Playing guitar for Steve. So there we go.
Steve is the singer / guitar player / songwriter for Jacky Boy. So that's the connection there.
Yes.
Zach, is your full-time gig guitar player? Like, are you like a touring musician?
I wish. No, it is not.
I mean, you got a lot of clout with that background. I don't know. For those of you that can't see an audio podcast, Zach's got like 15 guitars hanging behind him looking like a badass. That's right.
So it's a tough living. I have to make enough money to pay all those guitars off. So that's part of it. But no, that would be ideal. But I do have a day job. I
mean, you are a touring musician, though, but you also have a day job. Both things can be true. You know, both things can be true.
That's right. Both are true statements.
Honestly, like, not just because you're a good friend of mine, but like, just you're a very talented musician, Zach. You're one of the more talented musicians I've ever met. Amazing drummer, even though it's not even your main instrument. Keyboard player, piano player, whatever. Like, just he's one of these dudes, Donnie. You just put an instrument.
You might say he's the Zach of all trades.
He's the Zach. Oh, he is the Zach of all trades.
It's too kind. And if I would really appreciate it if you could invite me on to every one of your podcasts and just talk at me for 10 minutes to inflate my ego.
Yeah.
And then send me on my way.
Yeah.
Just start a thought for a new segment.
Just start your day. I like it.
That would be an enjoyable listen for the other listeners out there.
So the theme that you chose for this episode is riffage.
That's correct. Yes.
Talk about why you chose that theme.
Well, you gave me a short list of options, and I maybe saw the word riff out of my peripheral vision. I don't even think I read the others. I texted back, I'll do the riffs, please. I'll take that one.
That seems about right. I did text you multiple options, and about 3 seconds after I sent riffage across, you were like, that one, that's the one. So
yeah.
What is it about this theme that made you want to talk about it?
Well, I am a fan of the guitar riff. Obviously, I guess I would say like riff rock, for lack of a better term, is the type of music I've always been drawn to ever since I started playing. Just immediately thought of probably 20 songs. This was very hard. This was very, very hard, which I'm sure it is this is you guys' third episode. I'm sure it's been tough each time, but boy.
Did you start with like 60? You started with 60 songs and then you narrow it down to 20 and you're like, I'm getting closer. It's like, all right, now I'm at 8. And it's like, well, I can't decide between the 8. So I'm going to wait until the episode and pull them out.
And then I thought and then you think of 20 more after you whittle 10 of them down. But it was really fun. I like stuff like this, it gives you a chance to really sort of dissect the music and think about what it is exactly that you like about it, which you learn a lot about yourself as a listener, and you learn a lot about the music that you love. So yeah, it just kind of forces you to really pay attention, which I like that.
Before we jump into it, because again, you've got the choice to go first or last. Before we jump into our contributions to the mixtape, I got to know what you're listening to or what you listened to this week. If you say your own band, I guess that's cool.
No, it was not my own band. Let's see. The last record I put on was Sonic Youth Sister.
Ooh.
Earlier today.
Nice. Rod?
Is this going to be a week, like a every episode thing, Donnie?
Yeah, totally.
The only reason I ask is because I have a shit memory, and like I was listening to music today and I don't remember what the hell I was listening to. So
you don't remember what you listened to earlier?
Samara Joy is what I was listening to earlier, and she's it's a kind of like classic jazz, but she's like 22 and rad, and she's amazing. So if anybody's into like vocal jazz out there, check out Samara Joy.
So along kind of that, I guess it would kind of be similar. You guys listen to Krungbin at all?
Oh yeah. If that's how you say it.
So I literally had to look up the Wikipedia for the pronunciation. Zach, have you ever heard Krungbin?
I've heard a little. I know of them, but I've not.
It really is the smoothest shit that like, it is so good and it is so smooth and it just like feels like a hot cup of cocoa on a cold day, man. You've got to jump in, man. It is really good. It's a 3-piece and it's like a chick bass player and a dude that plays awesome old Stratocasters and a drummer. And most of it is pretty like instrumental, but there are some vocal tracks. Man, is it good. I strongly encourage Krungbin.
I do have one more question, not to prolong this, but I think it's important before we get into this. I'm actually curious what your guys' you mentioned earlier how hard it was, Zach. I'm curious how you guys defined like a great guitar, like a song making guitar riff. Cause that's the part I had the hardest time with, was like how I decided what was a riff, like a song with a riff that was so good I wanted to put on a mixtape versus is it just like a line, or like is it's a great riff but the song's not that great, you know what I mean? Like I'm curious how you guys made the decision on this.
You're asking what a riff is versus like a lick or a line or something like that.
A lick versus a riff, Zach.
Yeah,
explain.
That's tough. I sort of define it as like, sort of a thematic thing that carries over throughout the entire song, like a defining melodic theme. Not only a melodic theme, but more of like a, something that almost becomes a guitar that almost becomes part of the rhythm section, that is almost defining the rhythm.
Yeah.
As well as defining the tune, the melody, something that makes your head bop a little bit too,
It's got to make your head bop.
It has to.
I'm curious, Donnie, like I think you and I are going to have different ideas of riffage. So what was your thought?
It's so crazy. So like when I first started making it, I went down the craziest rabbit hole of all of the gnarliest guitar players that I've ever listened to and all of the weirdest shit that I loved when I was growing up. And I posted on the Instagram like Buckethead and Yngwie Malmsteen and was like, all right, dude, which one of these dudes are you picking to go into the guitar fight? And then as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, these dudes are ridiculous, but nobody's going to know Black Heart by Yngwie Malmsteen, and nobody's going to know crazy Buckethead albums. That dude, if you guys get a chance, Buckethead didn't make my list. He was on the initial list. He released 70 albums in 2015. Like if you go on Spotify and start looking at Buckethead's releases for 2015, they're not all full-length albums. Like some of them are like 4 or 5 tracks that says like Fight in the Chicken Coop Part 1, and it's just the weirdest shit. Dude, that's the scariest rabbit hole I went down as I was trying to figure this out, is that like I'm looking at all of these crazy like intricate guitar players and I'm like, what just has good riffs that I love that were important songs for the mixtape? And so I started going in a way different direction after I went down the guitar players rabbit hole and was like, all right, these are a little bit better for what would make sense on a mixtape versus a 29-minute long Buckethead solo about chickens.
He's got the chicken rock genre pinned down.
Yeah, I can't think
of another.
He's the main guy for chicken rock for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I fell into him from like Les Claypool and Primus and like all of that stuff was my first soiree into Buckethead. And as you go deeper into how bizarre that dude shit gets, like his side projects, like Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Burning Brains. I mean, dude, it's a crazy space to spend time for sure.
I'm crying. I'm crying right now. Yeah. I mean, if you don't have a monopoly on the chicken rock. Yeah. I mean, he plays with a KFC bucket on his head. So like you better have the monopoly on chicken rock if you're gonna play with a bucket of chicken on your head. So
to go too far down to go too far into that chicken coop, second awful dad joke today, is a scary place to spend time.
I've not spent much time with it, but I can imagine. He puts that out there.
And here's what's nuts. Okay, so you can go down the scary Buckethead. He also has acoustic albums. He has an acoustic album called Colma and one called Electric Tears. It's just gnarly. I'm begging everyone to go listen to Colma or Electric Tears by Buckethead. And it's not songs about chickens. It is just fantastic.
No longer interested.
Yeah, that's the right call. Well played, Zach.
Oh man. All right. I'm sure we all had a ton of songs that we had to narrow down, and I still am not 100% confident in my list, but whatever, I'm going with it at this point. But it didn't involve my process didn't involve livestock or farm animals at all. So I feel a little left
That's
out,
where you went wrong, Rod.
That's where you went
apparently. Wrong. All right. Well, before we get into the songs, let me very quickly review the guidelines based on the high fidelity compilation tape rules. So you got to have a killer opening track that grabs the listener's attention. Zach, that's going to be on you when you sequence this thing. Each song should flow smoothly into the next, creating a seamless listening experience. Good luck with that, because that is hard. The mixtape should have a good balance of different genres, tempos, moods. Variety keeps things interesting. I think we've done a good job with that so far.
Oh, for sure. It's been all over the place. Yeah.
The mixtape should tell a story and convey a specific emotion. It should take the listener on a journey. That journey is riffage in this episode. Number 5, it can't be too obvious, but can't be too obscure either, unless that's the theme. That's more of a guideline. I think we break that one a lot. You can't double up on songs by the same artist. That's the only actual rule we have. If someone says an artist before you, you got to pull an audible and choose something else. And then lastly, again, this is on you, Zach, but the closing track should leave a lasting impression and make the listener crave more. So you got to open strong, you got to close strong, which means you get a choice on the episode too. Zach, you want to go first? You want to go last in the order?
I would love the honors to go first.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. First song, Zach, what do you got?
All right. So for me, this is kind of the ultimate riff, the riff of riffs. Raining Blood, Slayer.
I just knew there was going to be a lot of fucking great metal on this episode. Like, I don't know that we've had any metal so far, and I knew it was coming in this episode.
Most definitely.
What is it about the song? What's about the song, Zach?
So Slayer, one of the big 4 thrash bands, they kind of wrote in the perfect metal riff in this one. Jeff Hanneman was the writer. He wrote the main riff, and I think he wrote most of the music for this song as well. I think he wrote most of the music for Slayer, but it's heavy, it's evil, and the way that it like travels, I don't know how to describe it because it's not a long riff or anything, but the way that it progresses in that short amount of time, it just like sucks you in and makes you want to headbang, is what you should be doing for a thrash metal song. There was when I was reading, I was just kind of doing some research on this, and I found a quote from this dude from AllMusic, Steve Huey, who says that the riffs are built on atonal chromaticism that sounds as sickening as the graphic violence depicted in many of the lyrics. And that's perfect. That's what it is. It says it all.
But you're right, Zach. Like it's like a quintessential like thrash. It's like everything you'd want like a thrash song to be, and it's memorable and it's catchy, but it also is like brutal and fast and metal. Like it's what you want.
The other thing, it's like you can have no idea, what the lyrics are about in this song and still enjoy it. It sounds awesome. It just sounds evil and heavy and awesome. But another thing that I love about this is thematically it ties in with the lyrics so well, because the lyrics are about, somebody being kicked out of heaven and going into purgatory. And you hear that like descent almost in that riff.
Oh, dude, well put. Great job.
And then this person is pissed off that they got kicked out of heaven, and then now they're mad at that they got kicked out and got sent to purgatory. And to be able to capture that in a guitar riff is incredible.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Hanneman has a quote here about that riff, about the Raining Blood riff, about how good it is. And basically he's saying that it doesn't matter how many times he's played it, it never gets old. And it doesn't matter who he's playing in front of, they love it. And he literally says, we could be playing in front of Alanis Morissette, she'd love it.
I bet she would.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Rod, you got next.
That's a good first choice.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go. What do I want to go with first? All right. So my first choice is Queens of the Stone Age song, and I decided to go with No One Knows.
that's great.
Fantastic.
I know it's probably their
riff.
biggest song, but that's not why I chose it. It's the song with the most riffage, honestly. Like I went deep into Queens on this episode because to me they're a guitar band that does that whole desert rock sound is heavy, like guitar based, and they have some amazing riffs, very rhythmic riffs. I love it. But honestly, this one probably is the most like interesting riff. And it's not even just the main riff, but even like the chorus riff is its own fantastic like part in the song. It gets stuck in your head. It's a fantastic song all around, but damn, it's just a great riff. And it's interesting too. It's not just like a 4 or 5 chord, like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's interesting, it's different, it's unique, but like it sounds like Queens.
Did they start as a supergroup? Because I know Dave Grohl was playing drums. Was Flea playing bass for that band for a minute?
I don't know. You may be thinking of Mars Volta. I know he played.
He did. He played trumpet in Mars Volta.
I think he played bass too, at least on that first record. But Grohl played. That was the third. That was the third Queens record, right? That Dave Grohl played on. But no, I don't think they were a supergroup prior to that.
They had a lot of like rotating members though, from like members of different. I mean, Zach, last time I talked to you, we talked about this. Like it took me years to know that like dude from Failure was in Queens. Like, you know, so I mean, I don't know if I call them a super group, Donnie, but it's definitely like a group of like amazing musicians, a lot of whom were in other bands. Like Josh Homme was in Caius, which is another amazing like guitar band, you know. But like I love this band. I almost all of their records, like, I mean, the records before this and the couple records after this were all just so riff based. But at the end of the day, like to me, this is like their best just standalone like riff is the song, is No One Knows.
I remember when that song came out, and I remember thinking how unlike anything else that sounded at the time, and even now. Yeah, you know, it's become such a huge thing since then. You know, I've heard it 1,000 times since it came out, but yeah, I remember being blown away, like hearing that for the first time.
And it's not like it's like every fourth measure the riff changes, so it's like a dynamic riff. It's got like a slide as a part of the riff, right? It's got that like it's just interesting. It's just different and it's very unique. And I know they're considered a guitar band, but I don't know if they're at top of people's minds when it comes to like great guitar riffs. And I think that's a shame, because I think Josh and just the band in general plays a lot of really interesting music that plays in all aspects of what makes a great song, not just like the notes that they're playing. Like what was cool about this episode is as I dug deep, I was, like you said earlier, Zach, I was like really listening to what made some of this stuff great. And a lot of what makes this band great are the rhythmic choices and the way the drums and the bass and the guitar play with each other. And so like, yeah, the riff is great, but what makes the song great is the way that this really, not in this song so much, but some of their other songs, like the guitar riffs are actually really simple, but the way they play with the drums make them sound so interesting. It's just like brilliant songwriting. So like props to Josh on his songwriting chops. Like there's a reason this band is massive. But yeah, like this song, like I could sing the entire guitar part right now. I won't, because I'll save the listeners the agony of it. But there's not a lot of songs that I could like legit sing the whole guitar part for, because I have a shit memory. But this is one. It's just so good.
Yeah, great call. So I fell down this rabbit hole where I had a shitload of instrumentals, which is like I went deep dive into great soloists versus great riffs. So I had to narrow it down towards the end, like up to about 20 minutes ago, where I was still like, okay, I need to adjust riffs from solos. But even in going through all of that, I couldn't take Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson off the list. Like that is some of the catchiest shit I have ever heard in terms of great guitar riffs. It is just, I mean, like that is the theme song to just walking around having a good time. Like I feel like in 80 something when that song came out, if I was at Great America, I'd be having the best time riding the Iron Wolf, listening to Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson. And that is the feel and the vibe that song gives for sure, of like 80s amusement park, great soloist. I imagine he's throwing picks into the audience. Like, it is a jam. That's what led me to that one. It's just too catchy.
I have not heard that song in such a long time. I know the song.
Yeah.
And I'm very familiar with it, but it's been a long time.
So I do have a question for you, Donnie, on this. So is there, like, this song is one of those, Zach said it earlier, like the difference between like a riff and a lick or whatever, and it's blurred. Like, it's both in this song. Like, there's a lot of soloing. There's a lot of like what I would call licks. Like, to you, there is like a central riff here that like sticks in your
totally.
mind.
Yeah. I don't want to sing it, but yeah, Zach knows the riff. It's the catchiest one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I know it too. I just wanted to clarify because it
you were trying to get me to sing it, Rod. You were trying to get me to sing it, and I'm not going to do it. Yeah.
And as a compliment to him, it flows right from like a solo or like a lick or whatever right into the riff. So it's like it feels very seamless. But there's definitely a riff in this song, and it is a great riff. But I was trying to trap you into
yeah. I'm not singing it, Rod. I'm not going to sing it.
No, fair enough. I don't know like anything about Eric Johnson though at all.
Neither do I. Nobody does, other than that one badass song that he had. There ain't a whole lot more to know.
Other than the fact he was on Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock.
Same one that Rain and Blood was on.
Man, you're starting. I got to say, though, Donnie, you're starting a little obscure here. And that's okay, because, again, they're not rules, they're guidelines.
Hey, good luck, Zach. Find out where you're going to put Cliffs of Dover. Yeah.
Yeah. Where are you going to stick that thing?
This is going to be
Barry Eric Johnson in the mixtape.
Can you have hidden tracks on playlists?
Yeah, totally. Just dead air.
Oh man, what a burn, Donnie. How do you feel about that? I feel like
I'm just kidding.
That was the nicest burn ever.
That was just for a joke for the sake of a joke. I don't feel that way. I like this song. I do like this song.
All right, Zach. Well, go ahead. One up Eric Johnson. Let's see what you got.
Okay, so this one is maybe it's maybe controversial because I don't know how it's going to fly on this playlist. But to me, this is a absolutely incredible song, Frame by Frame by King Crimson. Are you familiar with King Crimson at all, either of you?
I don't have much of a relationship with him.
I am familiar with King Crimson, yes.
So this song, oh man, it's crazy. Like the Robert Fripp is playing this, I would consider it a riff, but it's just like this very fast, like noodly riff that he's playing underneath this super melodic, just chord strum that Adrian Belew playing. And the way that and then it progresses into this, everything's in a weird time signature, by the way. Everything is, it's prog, it's proggy, but it's also very accessible and very catchy. I too was not familiar with King Crimson until I would say 4 years ago. So I was on tour with my band and we stopped at this rest stop in the middle of Pennsylvania somewhere off this highway. And we were in line to get some Starbucks and King Crimson was in line in front of us. Oh, and shit. At the time, like I didn't know anything about him. Like I just recognized they were all wearing like in the Court of the Crimson King 50th anniversary tour, like bomber jackets and t-shirts. And then I looked him up on my phone and realized that, yes, it was in fact King Crimson. And then I hadn't listened to him at all prior to that. And then after that, I listened to them and I've fallen in love with the band. I wish that I had been listening to them for far longer. But this song in particular is mind-blowing.
It's so fast. It's such a fast riff, but it is a riff. I mean, it's just, I'm not going to sing it, but it's like, it almost sounds like scales. Like,
yeah.
Right?
And
like that's the riff
that's
you're
the
talking
opening
about, right?
riff.
That's the opening riff. Okay. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah. That's one of them. And then it kind of progresses into more of a flowy, like riff in like 5 or 7. I don't know, but that's super melodic. After that almost goes into like, I would say the verses almost go into like Radiohead territory of like just weird flowing in and out of, I don't know, different keys or using like obscure like modes. For as proggy and as fast and crazy and noodly as it is, it's very, I don't know, like poppy almost to me.
Just don't put this and that Eric Johnson song next to each other in the final mix. It's too much all at once. People's heads will explode.
We'll see. That might be number 1 and number 2.
I was waiting in that story. As soon as you said we were in line at Starbucks, I was waiting for you to say that like a King Crimson song came on in the Starbucks and you're like, what is this? This is great. That's where I thought that was going, which already was going to be weird that a King Crimson song came on in a Starbucks, but no, the band was standing.
It was the actual
line.
Individuals ordering frappuccinos right in front of me.
just a whole band worth of frappuccinos. Please.
Was there any kind of wacky like coffee orders? Was it like, mocha choca bullshits and stuff like that? Like all sorts of weird.
I wish I had a good story. I wish I knew.
Extra caramel swirls.
I wish I knew, but that's all it took. That's all it took for me to become a fan, was just to see him at a Starbucks.
That actually kind of transitions perfectly into mine, because my next pick is a English band and the song came out in 1967, so a year before this band formed. However, this is the opposite of prog. In fact, I think it's so simple. It almost was too simple for me to include, but I was like, at the end of the day, fuck it. It's just an awesome riff. But Sunshine of Your Love by Cream. I just feel like it's a classic. I mean, it's just like that whole like, yeah, let's steal a bunch of blues, but make it psychedelic kind of, but it's also really simple and
super recognizable.
But it's more important than the rest of the song. Like the lyrics, irrelevant, the vocals, irrelevant, the drums, even though Ginger Baker's amazing, irrelevant. It's that riff. Like that's what makes the song amazing, It's Cream's biggest song off their biggest record, and the most memorable part of the song is that guitar riff. Like I know it's shared directly with the bass, like it's almost hard to distinguish the bass and the guitar in the main part of the riff, but it's still like it's just an awesome riff. And I went through a really heavy like Cream phase in my youth for some reason. We spoke about my Kiss phase, my very brief Kiss phase, Donnie, on the last episode, but I also went through a significant Cream phase. It was weird. I was never that into Eric Clapton, but Cream, like I got super into Cream. Like
I have a really hard time with this song specifically. And like, for some reason, whenever I hear this song, I'm immediately thinking of Big Bottom by Spinal Tap. Like, I feel like there's so much similarity to those two, those two riffs that it's like every time I hear this, I'm like, I kind of hope this is Big Bottom by Spinal Tap. And then it's like, it's Cream. This is fine.
Doesn't that lend credence to this being an amazing riff though? Like if Spinal Tap basically is going to rip this off for Big Bottom, which is a fantastic song. Yeah. Spinal Tap also has some great riffs, but
if Eric Clapton sang "Talk About Bun Cakes, My Girl's Got 'Em," do you think that would have been as popular of a song?
I would hope it would be.
I would hope so.
It might have been.
It was the 60s. I think they were ready for it.
In the 60s, they were all doped up, Zach, and they probably would have thought it was deeper than it was. So
sure.
I will say this is the second time already Eric Clapton came up in the intro, and that's too much Eric Clapton on this pod. I got to put my foot down on this, and I'm the one who brought up Cream into the mixtape, but I think we have to I think we need to move on because I don't want to talk about Eric Clapton anymore. So I will just say Disraeli Gears is one of my all-time favorite album covers though. And I'm not like a stoner psych guy. It's just a fucking cool album cover. It's just so British Invasion 1960s. Like I love it. That has nothing to do with the song, but awesome album cover. So
all right, my next one is Amy by Pure Prairie League. No, I'm just kidding. It's
you motherfucker.
No, I'm gonna go thrash metal as well, and I've got to go Cemetery Gates by Pantera. Such a great recognizable riff. The riff that every kid wanted to learn to play. You know, nobody could, I mean, no kids playing the solo, but they can definitely play that riff, you know? So like to be able to jump in and play that riff, you know, on your Dimebag Dean, if you were lucky enough to get one, it's too good of a riff not to recognize. And it's just one of those things where it was like, I think this was, if you already listened to a little scary music and you already listened to a little metal, like Pantera kind of, if you were into Metallica, Pantera was like, this is a little edgier, you know? And like, I think that Pantera kind of had that footprint, or like kind of, they were like the real gateway drug into metal as you were kind of going through that time of, you know, whenever that album came out that was on. But
yeah, I think that was early 90s. Yeah, like 90, 91 maybe. That's a solid choice. That I could not choose. I had a tough time choosing a Pantera song. They were on my long list for sure.
Yeah.
But damn, that song is just full of obviously like the verse riff / line is fantastic. That clean acoustic part. Yeah. But that main riff in the chorus,
it's so good.
It's perfect.
Yeah, it's really, really good. So that had to be my choice. That whole call and response shit at the end when he's doing the squealies, you know, and Phil Anselmo screaming. God, is that? It's all around. It's a great song.
Man, I don't know. I think that Pantera did the fans a disservice by completely abandoning their glam roots, because they did it so well. They did it so well. Like they've got those. I don't know if you guys have heard those. Like I think they have like two records before Cowboys from Hell came out.
Right?
That they don't claim.
Yeah, totally.
And they were all glammed out, like spandex and everything. But I like them. The one album cover is very silly. It's just got this like, it looks like a third grader drew the album art, and it's got this like panther thing like posing in front of it, and it just says Pantera and this terrible font on top of it.
Feels a bit Homestar Runnery.
A little, yeah. Just like
totally. It's a little Trogdor.
It's silly, but man, it's good.
I mean, you're right, Zach. They don't claim, like on Spotify at least, like Cowboys from Hell is their earliest, so they definitely don't claim those. But what's funny is like even on Cowboys from Hell, like the album cover is so cheesy. It's like really poorly. I would call it, now we would say Photoshop, but this is before Photoshop. It's like a really poorly cut out band members on this like obviously like 1800s saloon photo, and they don't even fit right in the scene. It's like so cheesy looking, and their poses are so weird and so over the top that it's like they're not glam. I wouldn't call it glam, but it's shticky though. You know what I mean? It's like they weren't taking themselves seriously even with this stuff, I guess is what I'm saying.
I guess there's some time they had to get it figured out during that transitional period.
How many edgy metal kids in your high school had the needle poke Cowboy from Hell logo tattooed on them somewhere?
I think one. I can think of one. Yes.
Hell yeah. We can all think of one. There's definitely one of them for sure.
Well, Zach grew up in Indiana like I did, Donnie. So if you want to make fun of him.
So then you would say 2/3 of the graduating class probably had that tattoo.
That's right. Yeah.
Is what you would
all
argue.
12 of us that graduated from the farmhouse.
Totally. All had that Cowboys from Hell tattoo for sure. Parking lots just full of pickup trucks.
I remember so much like Sepultura stuff for some reason in high school, which I don't know what that, I mean, they're from South America, right?
Brazil. Yeah.
Brazil. Yeah. I don't, maybe it was just like a counterfeit Sepultura t-shirt ring in my high school.
They were big. I mean, Sepultura was big in that like mid to late 90s metal, like not new metal, because he was on the Soulfly at that point, but during that time period they were popular. So I saved this one just because I thought for sure somebody would have chosen something from this band already. But the greatest heavy metal band of all time, Metallica, Master of Puppets.
Yep.
I had a tough time. I knew that a Metallica song would be on here because Metallica's maybe top 3 favorite bands of all time for me. This, I mean, that main riff, that main like descending intro riff is like when I first started playing guitar, like that was my goal, was to like learn how to play that riff, because it's so cool and it's so heavy. And the beauty of Metallica's riffs, one of the things that I really appreciate about them is, not to get like too technical or anything, but they have tuned in like, lower tunings before, but most of their riffs are in standard tuning, which is like they don't have to go down to like drop C or anything, and it's still heavy. But this song too, it's not just that, or this song had every single riff in this song is like world-class, like top of the heap guitar riffage. And James Hetfield is my favorite guitar player.
They used to be so good.
Yes,
God,
yes,
they used to be so good.
They're amazing.
Do you forgive them for what happened, Zach?
I do. Yeah. I mean, yes, I have thoughts on that, but yes, I do. Would
you say, Zach, that they're Unforgiven too?
Oh, damn.
God, they got so bad, dude. They got so bad.
But
yeah,
isn't that okay? Like, I mean, it's easy in the moment to like be mad at them, but like, how many bands even had one amazing album, let alone like a series of incredible albums?
I mean,
you've got to be okay forgiving them for whatever comes after, because they had such a string of like, I mean, more than 3, right? Like, I mean,
no, it wasn't.
Kill
more
'Em All
than 3.
and Justice for All, Master of Puppets.
That's it. We're done. We're good.
Ride the Lightning.
Ride the
Lightning's in there.
I disagree.
I like Load. Like, it's probably not
Jesus
popular
Christ,
opinion,
Rod.
though. But sorry, that's probably an age thing.
No.
Yeah, totally.
If Load and Reload were like, if half of the songs were on each one, it would. There's one good album there.
Okay, so don't even include those. Then before that, there's 5 great albums, right? Like Black Album.
It's fine. Black Album's not that good.
Disagree.
Regardless, they put out multiple.
Right.
I guess I'm saying that all is forgiven because they had such a period of great music. They can have a long extended period of shit music. It's fine. Like, most bands don't even get to the point at all, even close to what Metallica reached. So,
have you guys seen the Some Kind of Monster documentary, like the Saint Anger?
God, yeah,
of course.
Dude, that I love Kirk Hammett so much. That scene where, it's like new metal era and people don't do guitar solos anymore. And when they're talking, they're in their group and they're talking about the idea of not including any guitar solos on the record. And they show Kirk Hammett and he's just like rolling his eyes, looking around. And he's like, I'd just like to say that this idea of not doing guitar solos is a bullshit. He's like, it's a fad. And he was right. Like, he was absolutely right.
It's so good. He's the sweetest guy in the band.
Oh,
for
man.
Sure. Like,
he's a gem.
He's just there to play tasty licks.
Yeah, totally. I don't know, man. It's a tougher pill to swallow. Like, I can't get over going so good to so bad. Like, you got go ahead, Rod. What do you got?
So what if they broke up? Well, if they broke up, like, what's the difference?
Okay.
Like, it's not tainted, I guess. Like, you're saying it might be tainted. Like, I kind of get that perspective for sure.
If we had finished after the Black Album, if we hung it up after the Black Album, they would be one of the greatest metal bands of all time, hands down.
Well, yeah.
They still are.
The greatest.
All right.
I think that you can't take that away from him. Those Kill 'Em All through Justice,
Sure.
Obviously those are the best. Those are the best 4 records.
Right.
They still made those. You can't take that away from them.
Yeah,
that
you're
makes
right.
them
You're
the
right.
greatest.
I'll give it to you for sure. Absolutely.
But I been offended by some of their output? And yes, indeed.
I also would make the case here, and I don't want to make this a prolonged discussion, but I would make the case that it is probably the hardest genre to like genre shift out of. Like, other bands started in one genre and maybe had longer careers because they kind of changed their sound into a different genre. And it's
give me an example. Who are you thinking about?
If a metal band did that, people would just be like, this is bullshit because it's not metal anymore. But
who are you thinking about?
Like, punk bands could go into indie rock and then kind of turn pop if they wanted, and people might call them something else. Or like a regular rock band, like, all right, dude, Radiohead can start out as like a post grunge band and then go into just pop rock and then go into weird artsy electronic rock and then go back into,
that's
like,
a good point.
they can shift change
sure.
a million times. Now, granted, they write amazing songs, so you can do whatever, but like, what metal bands can like completely gear shift the genre that they're in without
here's
fans
a
like,
challenge. when you shift out your snare drum for an aluminum folding chair, you're going to run into some issues. You're bound to run into some problems.
How do you mic an aluminum folding chair? That was probably the biggest issue.
Yeah, that was probably the biggest challenge they had.
I have no arguments.
That's a whole album of that.
I have no arguments.
All right, Rodney.
Whole album.
Zach, you're going to know how much I care about this artist. And I never thought in a million years I would have them on a guitar riff list. But I don't give a shit. I have the song on here. But E-Pro by Beck. Is a fucking riff.
Yeah.
And I stand by it.
I agree.
I don't care if it's Beck and it's not like a guitar band or a guitar guy. Like, I don't like that song. It's one of his all-time biggest singles. And the entire song is basically it's the So What You Want drum loop from Beastie Boys with a guitar riff over it. That's the entire song. And the guitar riff cuts out during the verse and it's just the drum sample and vocals. And then the guitar part comes back in. And it's so good that it's like one of his biggest singles ever.
Beck is the perfect example of what you were talking about a minute ago, where he is a dude that can genre shift with no qualms whatsoever. It is totally fine. I have cried my eyes out to Sea Change more times than I care to mention, and have been so stoked on Devil's Haircut and Loser and all of those mainstream great pop songs. I guess they'd be alt rock songs, but either way, like, you know, he is one of those dudes that can shift genres seamlessly with no consequences.
It's kind of what he's known for, really. I mean,
totally.
He kind of takes it one step further. That's just what he does.
Yeah.
And it's always remarkable.
Like, Zach, we were close for a lot of years, and I probably listened to way too much Beck around you. So you know how much I love Beck. And Donnie, like, you know how frustrated I was about the 60 songs that explain the 90s episode of Beck because I didn't feel like they gave him enough credit. Like, I'm apparently like the biggest Beck stan, and I don't give a shit. Like, the dude is awesome. And again, I was as surprised as anybody would be that I have him on this Riffage list, but like, it just kept popping in my head. And I had other songs, and I would like literally listen to this song followed by another song on my list. And every time it was almost like it was like March Madness style. I'm like, these two songs against each other, better riff. And E-Pro just kept winning out. I'm like, it's just a great riff. And I think the other reason I included it on here is I think it's important to have a song that's not like a guitar god or like an incredible guitar. Like, they're going to have great guitar riffs because they're amazing guitar players. Like all these bands that we have on here so far, you know, you've got like Slayer and Pantera and these amazing guitar players, but it's like a fucking solid riff it's just a solid riff. It doesn't matter who plays it.
Yeah.
I actually thought that was going to get a little more questioning from you guys, and I appreciate your openness to my Beck shout here.
Hey, we ripped you apart enough on the last one. We'll take it easy on you this one.
I appreciate it. I'm never going to let Amy down, and you know what? I don't give a shit. I stand by Amy. Zach,
dude,
what are your feelings on Amy by the Pure Prairie League?
There were so many people that were like, you don't know Amy by the Pure Prairie League? Like, I was the asshole because, and like the clip that you gave me, and it's fucking Vince Gill singing. It's like, oh Jesus. Yep. Like, yeah, it was, there was a lot of, I caught a lot of flack for my opinion of Amy for sure.
Yeah, I sympathize with you, Roderick, because I already knew that you're a fan of that song, and they were merciless. They
were, but I feel vindicated now. I appreciate your honesty, Donnie, about that.
Yeah, honestly. Absolutely. All right, next jam for me. I knew that this artist I wanted on my list for sure. I just didn't know what the song was going to be, and it ended up having to be "Crazy on You" by Heart. And I know we talked about Heart recently. I think we talked about him last week, but that intro into that riff that kicks off that song and just these girls being badasses is so good. Like, they were just one of those bands that, like, there's so many good catchy riffs that this band has that I knew they had to be on my list. I just didn't know what song I was going to pick. Ann and Nancy, killing it from heart. And I've been known to scream alone by myself. Great karaoke jam. If you can find somebody that can belt out alone, that is a jam for karaoke. But yeah, it had to be Crazy on You for sure. That was my addition.
I love it. I'm a huge Heart fan, and Barracuda was my second honorable mention. It was like my second alternate if I needed it. But I went with Barracuda, not Crazy on You. But either way, I mean, like, just guitar god band right there. Don't get enough credit for being like early like indicators of metal, in my opinion. Plus, like, a woman guitar player during that time at that level, like, was like groundbreaking. So just fucking awesome band. Like,
so good. They still average 9 million monthly listeners on Spotify, which is so good.
Well, they
more deserving.
They navigated that like transitional thing too, not genre like we were talking about earlier, but they transitioned in the 80s and had those like ballad songs in the 80s.
Yeah. That
are awesome. Sound nothing like their early stuff at all. But
yeah, like, when they were pretty, like, I would say classic rock in the 70s, and then totally when they transitioned to the 80s with shit like Alone, it was so good.
Yeah, I think I prefer that stuff, the 80s era.
Do you?
Yeah. I think the songwriting was better. I like the songs, stronger songs, in my opinion.
Crazy on You has one of those, like, it's got that like really hard sounding acoustic intro before it goes into the riff, right? Like that's
totally.
Yeah.
That's so cool too. Like that awesome acoustic intro.
Yeah. That was why it had it. Like, that was what led me to that one, is that the intro, and then it breaks into that great riff that kicks off that song. And then it's got like a pretty good chug as it goes through it, like the verses. So that was a no-brainer for me.
That little pre-chorus, like fast, like almost like claw hammer.
Yeah.
Little lick, you know?
It's such a good riff. It's weird that I had Heart on my long list, but not this song, because now that you bring this up, Donnie, it's such a good riff.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm not going to hum it. I have to stop myself from doing it. But
you should
that's how you know it's a good riff, because I really want to sing it right now, because it's in my head and it's such a great riff. God, that's a good choice, dude.
The original Seattle sound.
Seattle band. Before that was the thing.
Job.
I guess Jimi Hendrix maybe was the original Seattle sound.
Yeah.
Zach, you're up. What do you got for the last one?
Let me ask you this. This is the last one. We get 4. Boy,
you get 4.
Ooh, boy, okay.
And then we'll shout out an honorable mention.
Okay. I'm going to have to go with Sweet Leaf by Black Sabbath.
Love that there's Sabbath on here too.
You've got to pick Sabbath. I mean, Tony Iommi is the riff king. He's the riff master. I actually had a tough time picking one Black Sabbath song. He sort of invented the whole, like, he wasn't the first to do power chord riffs, but he was, I would say, the first to do it in like heavier, like darker, more brooding music. And it just influenced so many bands, so many awesome bands. It was honestly, it was between that and War Pigs, just because War Pigs has like just riff after riff.
It's a similar riff to War Pigs, though. I feel like Sweet Leaf.
He does a lot of those like chromatic sort of, descending or ascending riffs. So I mean, it's his style.
Kind of sounds like part of War Pigs.
There you go, Rod. Way to sing it out for us, buddy. Somebody had to sing it out. Good job, Rod.
The legend, well, it's not a legend because it's kind of real, but like the power chord thing was forced, right? Because of like he was missing that finger or whatever.
He's missing like a fingertip. Yeah. And that's, I guess, was easier for him to play. That's the legend, at least.
It sounds so good though. Like those Sabbath songs really do sound ahead of their time, and with like that power chord thing though. Like it's weird to think now because it's so ubiquitous in all guitar music, but you listen to those old Sabbath songs and they don't sound like anything else from like 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Like early 70s like that.
Scared shitless. Can you imagine? It's like 1969 and the first Black Sabbath record comes out.
No.
I wouldn't know what to think.
I wouldn't. Well, you'd be scared. You'd pee yourself a little bit and then you go to church.
Probably so. Yeah.
At least in Indiana, you would.
Gotta pray it away.
There's a giant sign. So if you drive from Chicago to Indianapolis, there's a big sign that you drive past that says Jesus is real on one side and hell is real on the other.
Yep.
That's all it says.
I'm familiar with that.
So
I have to drive through Ohio for work sometimes, and there's one of my drives. There's the biggest fucking cross you've ever seen, just at the side of the interstate. It's like the size of like a 7-story building, but it's just a big cross and no sign or anything. Just there it is. So
yeah,
that's
Ohio gets down with Jesus.
What would be rad is if somebody like wrote Black Sabbath across it, and then all of a sudden it's super metal.
That would be super. I'm
not suggesting anybody from Ohio find that giant cross and spray paint Black Sabbath across it, but if it were to happen,
you'd be the most
cool.
metal out there.
Can I say, is it weird to say that like this song felt more metal before Nestle released Sweet Leaf as a brand of bottled sweet tea?
And now it feels less metal. It feels less metal now.
I mean, that's of no fault to Black Sabbath, but as soon as you say Sweet Leaf now, all I can think of is the prepackaged bottled sweet tea by probably Nestle or whoever it is that does that, or Lipton, or who knows. Whoever you are, you can send me some free sweet tea if you want, and I'll post a video of myself drinking it with Sweet Leaf by Black Sabbath playing in the background. So.
Ozzy could have retired on that Nestle money. They must not have offered it out.
They must not have.
Rod, you're up. What do you got? Last song
For me, Spoon Man by Soundgarden.
Oh, shit. Great call.
Dude, it's a riff. It's not just one riff. It's like I said earlier, it's a riff song. The chorus is its own fucking banger riff. The verse is a riff. Like,
you know what's crazy? I feel like Soundgarden is one of those bands where nobody gets any credit other than Chris Cornell, and the rest of that band is awesome.
Up? I've thought about this before.
It is messed up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think Chris Cornell is incredible. I mean, he's one of the greatest vocalists of our generation, but nobody in that band gets any kind of.
Kim Thayil's the guitar player, right? Is that how you say his last name?
Kim Thayil.
Kim Thayil, yeah. And he's incredible. He's an incredible guitar player. He comes up with these crazy riffs. This is a great example.
Sorry, dudes, real quick. We have a tornado warning and there are sirens going on right now.
Oh shit.
So
do you need to go hide?
Should we pause?
Yeah, we can pause.
Okay. Once I crawl out of the rubble, I'll come back up here.
Nice.
Okay.
A few moments later.
Here we are, though, safe and sound.
I'm glad you're safe, Zach. Now that we're back from you having to hide from one of those Indiana tornadoes.
I appreciate it. I
don't miss those. I don't get them here in Virginia anymore. We don't have tornadoes here. So
outside of Tornado Alley.
I know. I still remember those days though, hiding in the bathtub as a kid.
Oh yeah.
From the tornadoes. Listening to Amy by Pure Prairie League.
We were a big crawl space family.
In the basement or in the bathtub.
We had left off, Rod, with talking about how the rest of the band of Soundgarden doesn't get the recognition Chris Cornell does.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Kim Thayil, the guitar player. What's so interesting to me about Soundgarden in general, and this song included, is like his guitar parts are so interesting, like interesting tunings, interesting like time signatures, just really interesting shit. And he's a great example of like riff-based songwriting, because like I've read interviews with him where he's like, none of that's intentional. Like I literally just write shit that sounds good. Like I'm like the Spoon Man riff is in like 7/4 time, which is not like a typical time signature. And he's like, I didn't do that on purpose. I just wrote a riff that, you know what I mean? Like it is what it is. It just sounds good and it sounds cool. And he doesn't get enough credit for like the guitars in Soundgarden are like arguably as important, if not more important than the vocals, right? Like, I mean, they wouldn't be what they would be without Chris Cornell. Fair enough. And to be fair to Chris, he actually wrote this song, like the main chord progression, like the riff Kim wrote, but like Chris wrote this song for the singles soundtrack acoustically. But yeah, great riff, Soundgarden, great riff band. And the guitar player Kim Thayil doesn't get enough credit. So
I guess when you're that captivating of a frontman, it's kind of hard to take any additional spotlight. And he was. I mean, that dude, like Chris Cornell was the ultimate front. He was the quintessential front man. So I guess when you're, that captivating, it's tough to steal any spotlight away from him, maybe.
Yeah, it's like kind of like the Gwen Stefani thing with
totally.
No Doubt,
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, Donnie, did you know that there was a moment where Zach and I played in a No Doubt cover band?
What was the name?
True. I don't think we gave it a name, did we?
Did we give it a name?
I don't think we did.
It was
just a one-off thing. Yeah,
it was a one-off.
Did you guys have a female lead singer?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
great Maggie. Job. She was great.
She was great. Well, wore black suits with like black suits, black tie.
Wait a minute, horn players?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Damn, great! Wow,
no, we did the whole thing. We did the whole thing.
Great job. All right, for my fourth song, I'm literally audibling in the moment because I have like 5 songs that I want to be my fourth song, and this one was on my master list, but I decided that it has to be my fourth song, and it's totally Beat It by Michael Jackson.
Oof.
Oh.
And it's an Eddie Vedder guitar riff.
Eddie Van Halen.
Eddie Van Halen. It's too much grunge, but yeah, Eddie Van Halen guitar riff. But I had to throw that one in there because I feel like I can check a lot of boxes with that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was like, man, I've got to throw somebody's got to throw Van Halen in. He's the goat.
Right.
But what I found when I was trying to figure out what Van Halen song to pick, like there are some great riffs for sure, but obviously he's known for his soloing, his lead playing.
Sure.
And as a songwriter, I think he's an incredible songwriter. But I kind of realized that there weren't a ton of there are memorable riffs, like Ain't Talking About Love, incredible, among others.
Oh,
but
God, that's such a good riff. Oh,
it's such a good
Zach,
riff.
That was
I know,
so
it
good.
is such a good riff. That was going to be my choice. But damn, Beat It.
Yeah, I feel like I checked
Also
a lot of boxes with Beat It. I don't feel bad about using Michael Jackson on this mixtape and be like, he's not somebody that I'm worried about saving for a later episode. Like, I'll be honest, like 4 of my other songs that I just audibled out of, I want to save for later episodes. So I had to go Beat It, Eddie Van Halen. That solo's badass. That catchy ass riff is badass. And I feel like it just checks so many boxes for the Riffage mixtape.
Yeah, it's a good one.
That's one of those riffs too that like what's a riff versus a lick? That could easily be just a quick lick, but they make it a riff in that song. It's like it becomes the riff, and it's what makes that song so good. I mean, Donnie, you and I have talked about MJ, so I have an affinity for Michael
Jackson. We've deep dove into him quite a bit.
That's a hell of a song, and it's made by that Van Halen guitar part. Like that's what makes that song
totally
so good.
Yeah.
Did he have to did he request that he be uncredited for that one because he didn't want to piss off the other members of Van Halen? Have you heard that?
No, but that's great lore to support the song.
Damn, I should have looked that up before I put that out there.
Have you ever seen like the live footage where Slash plays guitar for this song and like him and Michael Jackson get in a fight on stage because Slash won't stop like shredding, and then Michael Jackson gets pissed? Like, if the riff is that good that Slash is just going to go rogue and just keep soloing with how good the song is, then there's obviously something more to be said about how good the riff is in this song.
So check this out. A quote from Quincy Jones on that song. He said, initially we rocked it out as Eddie had played a good solo. Or sorry, it's not from Quincy. It's about Quincy. Initially we rocked it out as Eddie had played a good solo, but Quincy thought it was too tough. So we had to reduce the guitar. And that's what was released. So his initial
I want to hear that other version.
Tough. Me too.
And
God,
so
I want to hear that other
version. Yeah.
Okay. Confirmation. Yes. He made Van Halen made a pledge that they would never take on side projects or jobs on the side. So that's why he wanted it to be a secret.
So way to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
What's so funny is that you immediately know that it's Eddie Van Halen.
I was going to say, those other guys are going to hear it, and he's not going to fool them for 1 second.
Yeah, totally.
That's not me.
Yeah. All right, let's recap the mixtape.
Well,
let's
hold on,
recap.
Hold on.
Oh yeah, what do you got?
I have to say this because there's two Hoosiers on this.
I know. Yeah, I was about to say Michael Jackson's from Indiana. Okay,
well,
no.
But specifically, Jermaine apparently said about Beat It that Michael told him that the song was written about them experiencing gang activity growing up in Gary, Indiana. That's what the song was about, which
Makes
is
sense.
why they reenacted one of those typical Hoosier gang fights.
Yeah,
in
that
the
knife
video
fight.
where you Zach knows, he grew up in Indiana just like me. You tie each other's hands together in your leather jackets, and then in
you dance it out.
Fight with the knife.
You say, "Hold up, there's a tornado coming." Reconvene in 15.
Yeah,
and then you get back and fight after that,
and you
dance it out.
But then you dance it out. Yep.
All right, recap of the songs. Zach, remember you got the mighty task of sequencing them after the mixtape list comes out. So we got Raining Blood by Slayer. We've got No One Knows by Queens of the Stone Age, Cliffs of Dover by Eric Johnson, Frame by Frame by King Crimson, Sunshine of Your Love by Cream, Cemetery Gates by Pantera, Master of Puppets by Metallica, E-Pro by Beck, Crazy on You by Heart, Sweet Leaf by Black Sabbath, Spoon Man by Soundgarden, and last but not least, we've got Beat It by Michael Jackson. This one's pretty eclectic. This is, third episode in, this is the heaviest one we've ever had. There's some distortion. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the order.
I think that's a good list, honestly. Like that feels good to me. That feels like what I want out of a riff-based mixtape. Like it's got variety, but it's heavy, and I think it's good.
Solid
Don't
spread.
fuck it up. Don't fuck it up, Zach.
All right.
Let's review honorable mentions because, again, I think the list runs deep from what everybody chose. So we'll let Zach kick it off. Zach, give us a top 2 honorable mentions of ones that you wanted to put on that you might have skipped.
Yeah, this one tore me up to not include this band because they are my favorite band of all time. Where the Boys Fear to Tread by the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, dude.
I'm regretful that maybe that didn't make the list, but this was a tough one, like I said earlier. But that song, Melancholy is one of my favorite records ever. That main riff in that song is just it's him at his best. It's Billy Corgan at his best. And then aside from that, I would say Bark at the Moon by Ozzy. That's a Jacky Lee riff, which I am a huge fan of his style of playing. I love Randy Rhoads. Not that you really need to say which one's better. They both do their own things, but I just like Jacky Lee's. I love his style of playing, and I think that song is perfect. It's the perfect guitar song through and through.
Zach and I have the same favorite band, so I had multiple Smashing Pumpkins songs on this list that didn't end up making the cut. There's a lot of great riffs, but
I don't look at Billy Corgan as a big riff guy.
Dude.
So maybe I've listened to my fair share of Pumpkins as well, but I don't look at him as he has recognizable riffs in terms of the way that I thought about it. But looking back at it, I guess I can see where you guys are coming from for sure.
Yeah.
I had a couple on the list, but my honorable mentions are, I had to only go with one classic rock song, and I went with Sunshine of Your Love, but 25 or 6 to 4 by Chicago was on my list.
Dude.
It's so simple, and it spawned so many copycat riffs over the years. The only reason I didn't include it is because I just didn't want 2 classic rock songs, and I kind of want to save Chicago because I think they're going to come up. I'm a big Chicago fan, so they might come up in recent.
What's crazy about that one is that's that big band sound where it's not necessarily just that guitar riff as much as it is that horn section and all of that good in that one.
But it's such a good riff. Green Day ripped it off for Brain Stew. They just stole the riff and just changed the rhythm. It's the exact same riff, and it's just a solid one. So that's my first honorable mention. My second one's actually super recent, but this riff lives rent-free in my head. It's so good. But Bogus Operandi by the Hives, the first single off their Hives new record, is a fucking screamer.
That's a ripper, dude. That's a good one.
It's such a riff. Donnie, if you haven't heard that, you got to listen to the new Hives record. It's so good. It's got actually a few songs with killer riffs on it, but
they just started touring again, right?
Yeah, because they have a new record. So the lead single is called Bogus Operandi, and dude, the riff, it almost beat out E-Pro. Like in that tournament that I had, the E-Pro tournament, it was the final head-to-head was the Hives and Beck. So good.
So the whole battle that I had through this whole mixtape was getting too obscure, going too far in the direction of great soloists and great songs as opposed to just riffs. So, and then I had to separate the art from the artist for a couple of them. So, Jackie Vincent that played guitar on that first Falling in Reverse album. I don't remember the title of the album. It's pretty recent. Like, I mean, it's within the last 8 years, but that dude, Jackie Vincent, that plays guitar on that first, the song is The Drug in Me Is You, but I couldn't commit to a Falling in Reverse song and be that guy. I just couldn't do that. But that dude is just one of the craziest shredders that I've heard recently. So that was one. And then I was going to put Polyphia, GOAT, the acronym GOAT song. Do you listen to Polyphia at all, Rod?
No.
Dude. It doesn't make sense. The kid's name is Tim Henson.
I know the guitar player. I see him on YouTube all the time, and like
for sure,
and like in Instagram and stuff. He's like Rick Beato is obsessed with that dude. So
yeah, he's
a crazy
the stuff
guitar
that he
player.
does is just bananas. But that song specifically, GOAT, it's an acronym. I'm assuming it's the greatest of all time. But that song is so catchy. The riff that he wrote for that song, and it's in a crazy time signature, and the whole song is just all of the musicians in the band just being badass for like 5 minutes. But it's not, I mean, it would be a lull in the mixtape. And I had one more. You guys ever listen to Rodrigo and Gabriela?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like flamenco guitar, like acoustic guitar. They have a song called Tamakin. And that is just, again, the catchiest song. So I had so many that like I was falling down this crazy rabbit hole of just great guitar stuff. And I had to come back to riffs. Otherwise it would have been 12 songs of Buckethead, and nobody wants that. So,
I mean, not to keep it going, but like that Polyphia thing makes me think like, is there being so good at your instrument that it becomes boring? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Cause that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Like he's so good. I acknowledge how good that guy is. I acknowledge it. And it's so interesting to watch him play, but as like a listening experience, and to be fair, Donnie, I haven't like sat down and like listened to a bunch of it. So I could, they might have stuff that I like, but like, I'm just like, it's almost like an exercise in like technical ability more than it is a song.
Totally.
It feels like.
I couldn't imagine going to a Polyphia concert. Like, I mean, I'm cool with 4 Polyphia tracks. I'm not watching an hour and a half of these dudes just shred. I mean, as entertaining as that would be, like, it's like, man, this is cool. But you know, maybe that's where you need a Chris Cornell, you know? So, but yeah, those were my honorable mentions. And like I said, the list is long, but those 3 for sure. But please go listen to the honorable mentions that we all have, because I think they all are fantastic.
How to make a mixtape.
Well, I just want to thank you again, Zac, for being the guest on here. We really appreciate it. I need everybody to definitely go check out Steve Marino and Mike Adams at His Honest Weight, but more importantly, go listen to Jacky Boy. The most recent record, Mush, is just so good, and everybody needs to go listen to it. It's fantastic.
It's really catchy. Man, is it really catchy.
Well, and I forgot to say it earlier, but that's why I was stoked to have Zac, you talk about riffs, because shit, some of the riffs on that record, dude, like, I mean, Jacky Boy's got some riffs, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, dudes. You know, it's like I said, it's we're fans. We're fans of the craft.
Thank you, Zac, and everybody. Again, make sure you actually follow the pod and leave a review if you can, or leave 5 stars if you can, and we'll post another question about any songs that we missed again on this pod too, and see what people think. But thanks again, Zac, Donnie.
Thanks, Rod.
Pleasure,
thanks, Zac.
as always.
Yeah, thanks, Donnie and Rod. This was a lot of fun.
All right.
Till next time, guys.